Breaking tonight, Donald Trump gave his first post-debate press conference just a short time ago, answering questions about immigration, jobs, and the big question, whether or not he is still considering a third-party run. Here is a big part of that.
Where's the plan? I think you're going to see lots of plans, and you're going to see also, and you have to understand, when you're coming up with a plan in business, you have to be flexible. There's got to be flexibility. And I recently bought something, not so recently, but Doral in Miami. Everybody wanted it. If I would have sat down and said, here's a 12-point plan in order to get Doral, I didn't do that. I went in and punched and beat the hell out of people, and I ended up getting it. Everybody wanted it. All of the smart money wanted it. The OPO, the old post office on Pennsylvania Avenue, everybody wanted it. I got it. In the Obama administration, I got it, which is pretty shocking. And I got it because I know how to get things. I know how to get things done. You can't sit down and say, well, I'm going to come up with a 19-point plan to get the old post office and create it into a great hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. The most sought-after property, I think, in the history of the General Services Administration. Trump got it. I'm not an Obama person. You probably heard that.
Now you're just asking people to trust you. You say, send me.
Well, I think there has to be a trust. There actually does have to be a trust. If you don't trust, you're not going to do very well. Jeb Bush will not be able to negotiate against China. Jeb Bush will not be able to negotiate against Mexico. Jeb Bush with Mexico said people come in, they come in, it's an act of love, okay? It's not an act of love. We need a wall. We need a wall. You see what's happening with illegal immigration. And in all fairness, if it weren't for me, they wouldn't even be talking about illegal immigration. And I took a lot of heat that first week, and then people realized I was right, and they apologized to me. We're going to be announcing over the next 2 weeks numbers and specifics, knowing that what I just said is right. You really have to be flexible on jobs and everything else. But we'll be, and I'm going to be speaking about it later, we're going to be taking jobs outside. We're going to be taking them away from China, away from all of these countries that are stealing from us. I mean, they're stealing our base, our money, our manufacturing. We're going to be bringing them back into the United States. And I'm going to be talking about this. Ford, as an example, is building a $2.5 billion automobile plant in Mexico. How does that help us? Except they'll be closing plants in Michigan and lots of other places. So we're going to be talking about, we're going to be bringing back jobs to the United States. 10 years ago, everybody wanted the wall. The Democrats, the Republicans, they couldn't get it. You know one of the reasons they couldn't get it? Environmental impact statements. Did you know that? There were toads. It's the most incredible thing. We're going to get the wall built, and it's going to be built right. And Mexico's going to pay for the wall. Mexico is making a fortune off the United States. Mexico is going to pay for the wall. And they're going to be happy about it. You know what? They're going to be happy about it. Because the cost of the wall is peanuts compared to the kind of money they're making. Mexico is becoming the new China. I have a great love for Mexico. I have love for the Mexican people. I have thousands of Mexico people over the years. Mexicans have worked for me, and they are now thousands. They're fantastic people, great spirit. But their politicians and their leaders are much smarter and sharper and more cunning. And I say the word cunning. They're more cunning than our leaders. I want to run as a Republican. That's what I'm doing. I'm leading in every poll, the local and the national polls, leading and by substantial margins. I hope that I will be the Republican nominee because that's the best way to win. I'm going to keep the door open on the other if I'm not treated fairly. And the word is fairly. It doesn't mean well. It means fairly. If I'm not treated fairly, we'll see what happens.
Well, right before those remarks, Donald Trump took credit for leading in the latest polls, as you heard.
Welcome back to Hannity. So earlier today, I asked Donald Trump to get specific about some of his policy positions, and here's what he had to say. Wall Street Journal says, where's the platform? Where are the details? I want to give you an opportunity to go over some of the issues, some of the things that you've discussed. Let's start with, you talked about Mexico. How quickly could you build the wall? How do you make them pay for the wall, as you said?
So easy. Will a politician be able to do it? Absolutely not. You know, it's funny. I watch some of the shows, and including your show, and I watch these guys say, oh, you can't get them to pay for them. We give them tens of billions of dollars a year. They are ripping us left and right. Their leaders are so much smarter than our leaders, Sean. They are ripping us left and right. The wall is peanuts. You know, it's interesting.
Is it a tariff?
In China, listen to this. In China, the Great China Wall. I mean, you want to talk about a wall. That's a serious wall, okay? That wall you don't climb over with a ladder. You don't even go under it, okay? That wall is 13,000 miles. If you add up everything in the kitchen sink with what we're talking about on our border,
right,
it's less than 2,000 miles. And a lot of it you don't have to do because you're covered with terrain and you're covered with areas that are already built.
Sure.
So let's say you're talking about 1,000 miles versus 13, and then they say you can't do it. It's peanuts. It's peanuts. And I will get Mexico, whether it's a tariff or whether they just give us the money. Sean, they need us so badly. And I'll be friends with Mexico. I'm going to have a great relationship with Mexico. We have a bad relationship with Mexico, and they're an abuser. China's an abuser. By the way, every country is an abuser because we have very stupid people representing us. They're incompetent.
So through a tariff, whatever means necessary, you're going to say, if you want to do business with the U.S., you want to do business, you're going to help us with this.
You know how easy that is? They'll probably just give us the money. But then I watch politicians get on, because it's not their thing, Sean. I watch politicians come on. Can you imagine, Sean, he's saying Mexico's going to pay? They'll never pay. And I'm saying, that's like 100%. That's not like 98%. Sean, it's 100% they're going to pay. And if they don't pay, we'll charge them a little tariff. It'll be paid. But we need the wall. We have to stop these killers from coming in. When you look at all of the murders that are happening and all of the crime that's happening, and I've been saying, and I said it, Mexico is sending, they're very smart, Mexico is sending some rough people, some bad dudes, and you see some of those dudes.
It solves a lot of their social problems.
Not only social problems.
By keeping the border open,
you know how
ostensibly they're saying go.
Do you know how expensive it is to house these people in a prison where you have a killer, like the killer of Kate, or the killer of the woman yesterday who killed a 66-year-old woman and raped her and tortured her? Do you know how expensive it is to keep people?
They haven't wanted to solve it. All right, let me ask you, again, go to specifics, details.
Go ahead.
Obamacare, what's your alternative?
Okay, so you can do the savings account concept, which is a concept that a lot of people... Healthcare savings accounts, which a lot of people are talking about and a lot of people like, cost the country very little, cost the people very little, and they get the money when they don't need it. I mean, it's an amazing system. And I actually think that if you're a Democrat, you can go with it. Obamacare, by the way, is going to cost this country in 16, you know, 16 is where it really kicks in, $1.6 trillion. We can't afford it. And here's the problem. It's no good. It's no good.
Premiums are up on average 40% this year.
Oh, it's up and going up a lot more than that. Right. It's no good. How about the deductibles? The deductibles, unless you get hit by a truck, you're never going to even be able to use it.
Right.
So Obamacare is no good, doesn't work. One of the first things I do if I get elected, end Obamacare and do something really good. Whether it's that, one of the things we have to do is we have to get rid of these artificial state lines that were put in only for the insurance companies. They make a fortune.
In other words, portability, buying across state lines.
Portability, but really, when I want to bid in New York, I have a lot of people in New York, but I have a lot of states where I have people, right? I can't go to other states and bid. I get like one bid. I get one bid. Now, the insurance companies do that because they'd rather have 100% of New York than be all over the country. Problem is, it's not free market. If you get rid of those artificial lines that wrap New York, New Jersey, I want to bid my insurance from California. I want to have 100 bids come in. And I want to pick the best company, not even the lowest price, the best company, the best plan. Right now, I have
every American would have that choice.
Everybody would have that choice. But the insurance companies don't want that because they essentially have a monopoly.
Also, you get catastrophic insurance as part of that.
You get catastrophic, you get everything. You'd get a much better plan, you'd have a much cheaper insurance. And you know what? Other than the one thing, you would want the country, the only thing I'd want from the government, I want to make sure those companies are very solid and strong. So maybe they even get a little point or something and they guarantee it. Because the one thing you don't want is a company goes bust and you're sitting there and you paid all your life into this, company. You don't want that to happen.
You'd protect people with pre-existing conditions. You'd protect...
I would do that. I would do it. You can get everything in Obamacare, but much more. Look, in Obamacare, for the most part, a lot of people, they don't have their doctor, they don't have the plan they want.
And the price went up.
And they can't use it because the deductible's so high. Not that they want to use it, but they can't use it. Unless you get hit by a truck, you can't even use it. So it doesn't work. So Obamacare is a disaster. It's going to be ended. And it's going to cost the country so much. You talk about a deficit. What are we going to do when Obamacare kicks in? Now, Obama will be playing golf very intelligently, probably on one of my great courses like Doral or something. And he'll be playing golf, and we'll let him play. I'll say, it's great. You have the President of the United States. I don't mind. Let him play. and he'll have a good time. But you know what? That's 16. He'll be playing golf, and somebody's going to be saddled with a huge problem.
Let me ask you, you talked about Planned Parenthood. Another example, talk about a war on women. Look at the number of abortions they perform every year. $500 million taxpayer money goes to them. You said you would have shut down the government to defund them. You also talked about some of the good things that they do.
They do good things.
Should the taxpayers pay?
Defund having to do with the abortion.
Should taxpayers give, with the debt we have, 128 trillion in unfunded liabilities, should we even give them a penny?
Okay, so look, let's say there's two Planned Parenthoods in a way. You have it as an abortion clinic. Now that's actually a fairly small part of what they do, but it's a brutal part, and I'm totally against it, and I wouldn't do that. They also, however, service women. And one of the things that I thought was so terrible when Jeb Bush the other day talked, as we said, when he talked about women's health issues, he was so bad. I mean, it's like, what is he doing? We have to help women. A lot of women are helped, so we have to look at the positives also for Planned Parenthood. You know, even a guy like you may be convinced it does some positive things. I would look at it very strongly. We have to help women. As far as the abortion stuff, absolutely.
But if they are doing abortions, then they can allocate their other resources to other things. The government, right. Why should the taxpayers pay for an organization that...
Maybe unless they stop with the abortions, we don't do the funding for the stuff that we want. There are many ways you can do that, John, because I'm totally against the abortion aspect of Planned Parenthood. But I've had many women, I've had many Republican conservative women come up and say Planned Parenthood serves a good function other than that one aspect.
And coming up, find out what Donald Trump says he has in common with Ronald Reagan. Plus, Trump gets specific about how he would turn around the economy and answers his conservative critics. That and more as Hannity continues. Welcome back to Hannity, and here is more of my interview with the one and only Donald Trump from earlier today. Let me go back to solutions and details.
Okay.
Your critics say you haven't given any. You're giving them today.
Well, I'm giving a lot.
93 million Americans now out of the labor force.
Right.
57 million of those are women. 46 million Americans are on food stamps. 50 million Americans are in poverty. Staggering numbers.
It's amazing.
When you think...
And then you hear there's a 5.4% unemployment.
Okay.
It's not 5.4.
It's a lie.
It's really, if you add it up, it's probably 40% if you really think about it.
It's high, and it's only Washington math that gives you that number.
It's phony math.
Here's my question. So when you think about your economic plan and you think of those statistics, what are the top three things that come to your mind specifically that you can do to help the 93 million, the 57 million American, the 50 million in poverty?
Sure. I love the question because this is my strength.
Right.
You know, a competitor of yours did a big poll. I won't say it was CNN, okay, because I want, but they did a big poll, okay? And the poll came out...
By the way, trying to to monitor what you're going to say, right. It's a futile attempt. Go right ahead.
Okay. I refuse to say it was CNN. but they did this poll, and it was a very comprehensive poll. And they had me #1 in leadership by far. And the other thing I was really #1 on was anything having to do with the economy, okay? Jobs, et cetera, et cetera. I was so high up. I mean, the other people, there was like no #2 practically. We have to bring our jobs back from China. As an example, we have to bring manufacturing back. You look at Japan with the boats that come in, pouring in with cars. You know what we send Japan? We send them beef. We send them wheat.
What about American cars?
Corn. Okay? I want American cars. I don't mind. If Japanese companies build here, that's fine. But you know what? I don't want to see boats pulling into Los Angeles, because I saw boats the other day that were the biggest boats I've ever seen, loaded up. You wouldn't even believe the thing could float. So many cars. And then you see these cars just boom, boom. They're not made here. How is it helping us? I don't want cars made in Mexico. I love Mexico. I love the Mexican people. I have so many Mexicans working for me now. And by the way, buying apartments and doing everything else. I have a great relationship with Mexico. People are just starting to find out. And by the way, in Nevada, as you heard, they just did a poll. I was #1 in the poll with Hispanics. I was #1 with Hispanics. Anyway, but that doesn't help us from the standpoint that their leaders are so much sharper. And I use the word cunning. They're more cunning than our leaders.
What is the tariff on an American car?
Well, they make cars in Mexico. They just send them across the border. How does it help us? I went to the Wharton School of Finance. Tell me, how does it help us? It doesn't help us at all.
Were you really #1 in your class?
I was a good student.
Yeah.
I was a very good student. People are shocked by that, but I was actually a very good student.
Let me go back to let me ask you one question before we get back to specifics. Some conservatives are suspect about your conservatism. They say, all right, well, you once supported, you gave money to Clinton, you went to Clinton's wedding, or she came to your wedding. You once supported a single payer. You wanted a one-time tax on the wealthy. To those that doubt your conservatism, explain the transition. How did you grow into a conservative?
Okay, I mean, it's sort of easy to explain. Now, one of the things I always start with, Ronald Reagan was a Democrat, and he was sort of liberal, and I knew him. I didn't know him then quite, but I knew him. And I knew him well. He liked me, I liked him. He was like this great guy. And he was a Democrat with a liberal bent, and he became a great conservative, in my opinion. Or some
one of the greatest presidents.
By the way, and a great president, and a great leader, he had something very special. But if you think of it, he was a little bit less conservative, actually, than people think.
When he was a governor, sure.
He had a great heart, and I have a great heart. That's why I'm talking about, you know, when we mentioned Planned Parenthood, there are some positives, et cetera, et cetera. We've got to take care of our women. We've got to take care of our people. But if you look at some of the things I said at the time, that was many, many years ago, I wouldn't have minded taking a piece of my wealth and paying off the national debt. Okay, I'll be honest with you. Now we can't do it. It's so humongous. It's so. At that time, we could have paid off the entire national debt, and we could have started the game all even.
With a balanced budget amendment to support it.
Absolutely, and that's what I said. And I wouldn't have minded doing that, John. And I took some heat. People say, oh, what a terrible thing. That's not a very conservative thing to do. I think it's a very conservative thing.
Would you still support it?
I would take. The problem is we owe so much now. I mean,
it's impossible.
It's more money than all the wealthy.
Wouldn't it hurt the economy because they spend less on business?
You know, I think we got to get rid of we have a problem.
Yeah, I want to get to that in a minute.
And the problem is the 19 trillion, because I was saying 18, but now it's really 19.
It's going to be 20.
And very soon, the next time you interview me, it's going to be 21, 22, 24. It's out of control, and nobody's doing anything about it. And honestly, with trade, with smart deals, Carl Icahn is a friend of mine. He's a great businessman. I spoke to Carl. Carl would love, I mean, you could call him. You should have him on your show sometime. A very, very smart guy, brilliant guy. He wants to help. He said, Donald, if you're involved, I want to help you. I said, Carl, you take China and Japan. Guess what? If I put him in charge and Wall Street,
did he say yes?
He said yes. He'll do whatever I want. He's a patriot. He loves the country. And you know what? He's made a lot of money. He's done great stuff. He would love to do this. Me too. I love what I'm doing outside of this. And actually, I'm enjoying this more than I thought, to be honest. It helps with all these polls coming.
You're liking all this?
I don't know if I'd like it if I was down to 2%. But Carl Icahn is a great businessman. He would love to be able to help.